Okay, good evening, everybody. We're ready to call to order our joint meeting of the City Council, successor agency to the Redevelopment Agency, Public Finance Authority, the Public Utility Authority, Housing Authority, Paris Joint Powers Authority, and the Paris Community Economic Development Corporation of the City of Paris, this Tuesday, June 8th, 2021, at 6:37 p.m. Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Here.
Councilmember Rogers. Here. Councilmember Nava,
Present.
Councilmember Corona,
Here.
Mayor Vargas.
Here, thank you. For those of you who are joining us on Zoom, if you'd like to make a public comment on the Zoom screen, please click on the participants button at the bottom of your screen. A list of participants will appear on the right side of the screen. At the bottom of this list, please click on the gray raised hand button. This will signal to the host that you would like to provide public comment, and you will be added to the list. If you are using Zoom on your smartphone, tap on your screen. A new screen will pop up with the list of participants. Look for the raised hand button on the screen. And for those of you who are calling in on the phone, just hit *9 on the keypad, and that will signal to the host that you'd like to speak as well. Item 3 is our invocation, which will be led by Pastor Jerry Brown from the U-Turn for Christ. And at the conclusion of that, if you still remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be given by Mayor Pro Tem Rabb. Pastor Jerry, you're on. Unmute yourself first. Pastor, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
All right. All right. Well, God bless all of you. Let us pray. Thank you, Lord, for us being able to have this meeting tonight where minds can come together, and by your wisdom that you would allow for them to make great decisions for the city of Paris and all the people that reside there. I just ask that you would just pour out your spirit on this place and allow for you to be the one that guides and directs. Allow for each one of those that are in a position of authority to recognize that we are also under authority. So, Almighty God, we thank you for this evening. We ask your blessing now in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me as we salute our great nation's flag. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome. God bless.
Okay, item 5 is report on closed session items. Mr. Dunn?
Thank you, Mayor. The council met on the 2 closed session items of labor negotiations noted on the agenda, and no reportable action was taken tonight.
Thank you. Item 6 is presentations. We have none. Item 7 is our Youth Advisory Committee update, which will be given by Juan Salas. He's a representative of the Youth Advisory Committee.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council and City staff, Open Mic Night was officially back this past Friday. Moving forward, we would like to encourage more teens to come out and support our efforts on providing a safe environment to show your artistic talents. Our next Open Mic Night will be on Friday, July 2nd, 7 p.m. at the Sattler Youth Center. This event will be held outdoors following all CDC guidelines as we continue to practice social distancing. We hope to see you guys there. YC is currently recruiting members for the 2021-2022 year. If you are interested in being a part of professional youth leadership and mentorship organization focused on civic engagement and community service, please go online and apply. Applications can also be obtained by contacting Statler Youth Center. Our meetings are held on every first and third Tuesday of the month at 5 p.m. We would love to see your support. Lastly, on behalf of all YAC, we would like to acknowledge June as official Pride Month, as we recognize the valuable contributions of the LGBTQ+ individuals across our Paris community. We would also like to wish an early Happy Father's Day to all dads in the city of Paris. Thank you all for the guidance, encouragement, motivation, and love that you guys provide. The YSC hopes that everyone continues to stay safe and healthy through these times. This concludes our updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Item A is our approval of minutes. 8A is the consideration to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 25th, 2021 of the City Council, successor agency, the Redevelopment Agency, and all these others listed on our agenda. If there are no comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion to approve. A motion by Mayor Pro Tem Rab, second by Councilwoman Nava. Please call roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
I need to abstain.
Councilmember Nava,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
Rab, Nava, Corona, Vargas, yes. Rogers abstain.
Thank you. Item 9 is our consent calendar. Consent calendar items are normally enacted in one motion. The mayor or city council may remove a consent calendar item for a separate action. We will allow public comment, which will be limited to 3 minutes. Any council members have any requests on the consent item to pull any items? Don't see any. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Very good. I'll entertain a motion to approve. I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Corona. Please call roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rab,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Nava,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 10 is our public hearings. 10A is consideration to adopt proposed resolution number next in order regarding the annual engineers report and confirming the assessments for maintenance district number 84-1, MD 84-1 for fiscal year 2021-2022. This will be introduced by our city engineer, Mr. Stuart McKibben.
Good evening, Mayor, honorable members of council. Daniel Louie will be making the staff report.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and honorable council members. Tonight, I would like to go ahead and introduce items 10A, 10B, and 10C, if you don't mind. Tonight's proceedings are being held to obtain approval for the levy of the fiscal year 2021 and 22 assessments. These proceedings are required to continue to provide maintenance work under the city's 3 maintenance districts and to collect assessments on the property tax bill. The proposed assessments total approximately $916,000 for the Streetlight District 84-1, $2.83 million under Landscape Maintenance District 1, and $2.12 million under Flood Control Maintenance District 1. MD 84-1 provides funding for electricity maintenance and street lights and traffic signals. There is no increase recommended in the current assessment of $46.28 per benefit unit. Landscape Maintenance District 1 provides funding for the maintenance of public landscaping, specifically benefiting each zone. Flood Control Maintenance District 1 provides funding for the maintenance of public flood control facilities and interior residential streets that specifically benefit each zone. None of these zones exceed the maximum authorized rates approved by property owners at the time of annexation. The next action is for the public hearing to be open for public comment. After the close of the public hearing, staff is recommending that City Council adopt the resolutions giving final approval to the 3 engineers' reports and authorizing the collection of assessments on the tax roll. Unless there are any further questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Daniel. Council, anybody have any questions or comments before I open up the public hearing? Seeing none in the queue, I'll open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do you have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing. I'll call for a motion on the resolutions for items 10A, 10B, and 10C. And I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Mayor Pro Tem Rab. Please call roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Nava,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes,
5-0, motion approved.
thank you. Item 10, excuse me. Item D is consideration to adopt resolution of the intention number next in order and introduce the first reading of ordinance number next in order, amending the contract between the Board of Administration, California Public Employees Retirement System, and the City of Paris. This will be introduced by our Director of Administrative Services, Ms. Saida Amoscar.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Again, my name is Saida Amosgar. I'm Director of Administrative Services. The item you have here before you is a resolution of intention and first reading of ordinance to amend the city's California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS, as follows. So this contract amendment process has been prepared in accordance with all current and respective state laws. The amendment is to exclude certain positions from CalPERS membership that are temporary and or part-time, and they include the following positions. These positions, if approved, would be program assistant, program aide, intern, and park ambassador. Also, I'd like to note that these positions follow the guidelines, the criteria guidelines under CalPERS, and CalPERS has approved the following positions to be excluded. So the purpose and the intent of the city for amending the contract and excluding these positions is so that we can eliminate the threshold of 1,000 hours allowed for these part-time positions to work per fiscal year. So in order to get rid of that limitation, we would need to amend the contract to exclude these positions. And that would, in turn, allow us to permit the part-time employees to work maybe at times and as needed. They may go a little over 1,000 hours. They still remain part-time, but they may go over 1,000 hours and allows the city to maximize the manpower and to continue providing superior services to our community and the appropriate staffing levels for the city operations and events. In particular, this really this would allow us to expand our services and staffing levels rather for the community services department. This is something that we've been trying to attain for years and will be very beneficial for the city. So that concludes my presentation, and at this time I'd like to add that staff is recommending approval of this contract amendment via the resolution of intention approval as well as the ordinance first reading, and allow the city to process all the required forms into CalPERS. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, anybody have any questions or comments? Seeing none on the queue, I will open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests from the public on this matter?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Very good. We'll close public hearing. And if council has any further questions, I will entertain a motion to approve. A motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Corona. Please call roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Nava? Yes. Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 10A is consideration to adopt resolution number next in order, approving the issuance of a multifamily housing revenue bonds by the California Public Finance Authority for the acquisition and construction of the Paris Sterling VS3 project. Approve the City of Paris becoming a non-charter member of the California Public Finance Authority, and approve the joint exercise of power of agreements. And this will be introduced by our Economic Development and Housing Manager, Michelle Ogawa.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm here to give you a little more background on the project and the items before you tonight. This is in regard to the Paris Sterling Villas 3 project. So for reference, this is the project location highlighted in green. It's just over 18 acres near the southeast corner of Nuevo Road and Murrieta Road. This slide shows the approved site plan. The project plans have completed their development review, and this is the approved site plan on file with the city. The project itself entails 286-unit multifamily rental housing facility for seniors. Of the 286 units, 142 units will be designated for low-income households that qualify at 50% of the area median income. And the item before you tonight is directly related to the project financing. So the developer is proposing to obtain tax-exempt bond financing up to $40 million for the acquisition, construction, and development of the project. The California Public Finance Authority, or the CalPFA, would be the issuer of the bonds, and the CalPFA is a joint powers authority that was created in 2015. Since its inception in 2015, 49 municipalities have joined. And the intent of the JPA is to promote economic, cultural, and community development opportunities that create temporary and permanent jobs, affordable housing, community infrastructure, and improve the overall quality of life in local communities. Financing requirements tied to this request include the conducting of a public hearing under the Tax Equity and Fiscal Responsibility Act, or a TIFRA hearing. The CalPFA Bond Council has noticed the public hearing with this evening's council meeting information, and this requirement will be satisfied at the close of this evening's public hearing. There's also a city resolution before you and an agreement to authorize city membership to join as a non-charter member of the JPA, and these two items are to demonstrate and formalize the city's support of the project in general. It's important to note that all of the associated debts, liabilities, and obligations will be the responsibility of the CalPFA as the issuer of the bonds and the developer as the borrower. And with that, there will be no associated financial, legal, moral obligation, liability, or responsibility that will fall on the City of Paris tied to the approval of any of the items before you tonight. So with that, staff is recommending the adoption of resolution number next in order, approving the issuance of the multifamily housing revenue bonds for the Paris Sterling Villas 3 project, approval of the City of Paris to become a non-charter member of the CalPFA, and in doing so, approval of the joint exercise of powers agreement, and to authorize the city manager or her designee to execute all related documents in a form approved by the city attorney. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and we can take any questions you may have. We're joined virtually tonight by representatives from the CalPFA as well as the developer of the project.
Are those the statues on my screen?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Ogawa. It was a good presentation. Council, anybody have any questions or comments? Councilman Corona?
Okay, my question is for the developers. I did notice it's called Paris Sterling Villas 3. Is this related to Paris Villas apartment?
Hello, my name is Stuart Boyd. The answer is the Sterling Villas 3 is just because it's 3 buildings.
Oh, duh, okay.
It is not related. It's a completely new project.
Okay, and then also I'm trying to see if you guys happen to have an expected date of construction.
We should begin construction in October. The important milestone that we're going to need to push on is getting the final approval of the construction plan. But it should be October. of this
October
year.
21? Did he say
October of 2021, yes.
Okay, and then you know, my next question, I guess, is for the city staff. Do we currently have regulations on parking on Murrieta just in case the traffic overflows out of there?
The, currently, can you put on the site plan, Michelle, or if we have it? I'm not sure, traffic might know if there's any street parking on Murrieta. I don't think there's any.
There's like a pull-in parking along Murrieta Road by the park.
Can we bring up the schematic, please, on the
Yeah,
camera, on
that
the
was my recollection.
screen?
For the aerial? There we go.
Which is a little bit further south on the other side.
For clarification, it's not a no parking street. Murrieta Road on the east side.
IT, can you put it on the Zoom?
Yeah, typically not. It would be a parking street. You could park on it.
Okay, so you know, I know a few years ago we passed the increase the parking at apartment complexes to kind of mitigate some of the issues regarding the apartments. You know, like with the one on Nuevo Road, and I guess it's in between Murrieta and Wilson. It's a big overflow of cars. So I'm just trying to see did our staff and take full consideration that there will not be an overflow. Is there sufficient parking there?
I would have to review the file. It's been a while since this one got approved. So I don't know right off the top of my head,
Okay.
Councilman.
Okay, now are the
Stuart
meeting?
Boyd again. I can say that we satisfied the CTAC and CIDLAC requirements for parking, which is based on number of bedrooms times. So we do know that we have sufficient parking, both according to the Paris rules and the California state rules. So there's sufficient on-site parking to handle all the traffic from the project itself.
Okay, thank you.
If I could elaborate a little bit further, the parking resolution that was adopted a couple years ago was for a general apartment project. This is a senior housing development. So based on the review, this project was approved probably about 10 years ago.
Can you take your mask off? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this project was approved about 10 years ago, and based on my recollection, because I have been working with the team that's trying to construct this project, they have probably about 30 parking above the requirement of the senior housing project. So just wanted to note that for your record.
Yeah, and that's a good note because only one of us was here 10 years ago. So, I mean, we haven't seen anything on this plan. But what I'd like to add to that, Councilman Corona, is I don't know if you could ever say you have adequate parking because the issue is the amount of people that end up moving into an apartment. Where, in other words, 2 people may rent an apartment, but there's actually 7 living in there, and now we got 5 cars to that one apartment. You multiply that times, oh, screen's gone, 200, whatever apartments it is. I mean, that's always going to be an issue, unfortunately, but how do you address that, you know? Okay, anybody else have any questions? Councilman Reb? Excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, in terms of the parking, I know we passed a resolution in 2017. So the 2017 or 16 resolution, we passed increasing the number of required parking spaces. That doesn't apply to this particular project?
If I may, I also want to, if I may, Mayor Pro Tem, this project, for clarification, it's a senior apartment complex. So the parking regulations are not as a typical multifamily, so there's limitations on the age of a person that can reside there and the number of people per unit. And no, it does not apply because it's been approved prior to that resolution being passed. So whatever was in place at the time of approval is what you see today. But even when you passed the new resolution a few years ago, that was pertaining to multifamily housing.
Okay, and the senior, this is 55 and over senior?
Correct. Is it 55 and over?
We-
Developer,
Yes, if I may
Yes,
interject.
it's 55 and over.
It's 62 and a half and over, Stuart. And we have a Western Management Company has done a lot of LIHTC, low-income projects. They're very well equipped to handle the management. And again, it's a senior project. We're limited to the amount of people that can be in the unit. There can't be 7 people in each unit. So basically, we want to work with the city, we want to partner with the city, and we want to be a help with the city and also for the community in providing assistance in low-income housing. And I feel that we have met the parking requirements, and we've exceeded it by 30. And again, we're talking about seniors 62 and over. So the likelihood, I don't think the likelihood is as much as the other types of apartments that you're thinking of.
That, just a comment, that helped massage some of my concerns. The 55, I would be more concerned about it. Because just knowing personally, my dad was 55 with an 11 and a 9-year-old, and people are having children a lot later now. So 62 kind of makes that possibility a little less of people having multiple family members in the house. Thank you.
Schindler, Richard Schindler. Thank you. And just to reconfirm what you said, Mr. Schindler, you said there wouldn't be no more than 7 people in an apartment, or there would not be?
No, we don't allow that.
Okay.
We have requirements for the state as far as the occupancy allowance. And Stuart, maybe you can elaborate on that as far as what our requirements are. But we do have a Western Management, who's a regional and national company providing the property management, and are well-versed in this type of management. But no, when I said 7, I just meant to say that there will not be 7. I mean, our regulations will not allow that. But
And how many, what are these, 1 and 2 bedrooms only, or up to 3 bedrooms maybe?
The majority are 1 bedrooms.
Okay.
And there is a few 2 bedrooms. In our next phase, it's only 1 bedroom units.
So don't get me wrong, I think we all want this project, it's just new to us, we have not seen this, and with the exception of Councilwoman Rogers. So I think it would be nice if staff can present some more information as far as the plans and all that, and the drawings, all, you know. This is just focusing on this JPA, we can just see more of the plans for, because this project has been approved, we're just now approving the JPA portion, so, but I'm all about growth. I love this, but I'd just like to see the plans. It'd be nice to see them. Okay, if no one has any more questions, Councilman Corona.
Well, just a real quick comment, Richard. I don't want to think that we're criticizing or critiquing. We've just had some apartment complexes in our city that maybe weren't addressed with the parking issue. But I think it's a fantastic project. It's much needed in our city, especially with our seniors. As the seniors are going to start downsizing, it's going to start hopefully freeing up houses for the working and younger people who are having so much trouble finding a home for their families. But that's all the comments I had. Thank you.
Very good.
Well, thank you. And I wanted to add too, from our market research, we find that there's up to a 2-year waiting list for seniors in your area. So
Oh, yeah.
we very much want to be a part of that and facilitate that.
Well, feel free to bring other projects in right after this one, Richard.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing no more comments. I'm going to open up the public hearing. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak on this item?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Okay, we will close the public hearing. And I'll call for a motion on the resolution. I have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilman Corona. Please call roll call vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Rabb,
Yes.
Councilmember Rogers,
Yes.
Councilmember Nava,
Yes.
Councilmember Corona,
Yes.
Mayor Vargas,
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Item 11 is business items. 10A is our fire services presentation. This will be introduced by our city manager, Clara Miramontes.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Mayor, and City Council. I'd like to introduce Division Chief Kirk Barnett from the Riverside County Central Division. He will be presenting to you tonight a summary of the station updates, calls for service, and any significant events that took place over the last year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'd like to start to say that we're very proud to serve the citizens of...
Can you move the microphone up to Cap? Thanks.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'd like to start by saying we're very proud to serve the residents of Paris, and we look forward to the continued cooperation of the city. So the city is in a contract with cooperative services with CAL FIRE, Riverside County Fire, and what that entitles is Regional Cooperative Integrated Fire Protection. And those services continue throughout the jurisdiction, and it includes more than just the city of Paris fire stations. So inside the city of Paris, there's 3 fire stations, 2 that are operated and owned by the city of Paris, and 1 operated and owned by CAL FIRE. It's a state facility. And then our surrounding fire stations operated by the county and the city of Moreno Valley also serve first incoming calls inside the city of Paris. So Station 101, which is up on the screen now, that's our newest fire station, located right here, close to City Hall right here. Station 90, this is the other station with our ladder truck. Also, you'll find in this year's budget package, we're looking to allocate money to replace the ladder truck. And then this is Station 1 that's owned and operated by the state, that's on the other side of the tracks by the Metrolink station. So we're on all risk fire service, medical emergencies, any and all emergencies. We respond to everything. The city of Paris is quite busy with calls. The 2 of the stations are within the top 10 of our busiest stations within the county. And that's quite an achievement for significant incidents. I really only wanted to highlight one specific incident, which was the Salvation Army. That was in the county area, not necessarily in the city, but the reason why I'm highlighting that is it impacted the residents within the city limits. And I wanted to show the amount of resources that responded to that, because we had spot fires across the freeway, all the way into some of the neighborhoods on the adjoining side east of the freeway. So we had that was a 5-alarm fire with 30 engines and 4 truck companies. So that's part of this regional protection that is given at a moment's notice to anybody that's in that agreement with Cooperative Fire Service. So in 2018, we had 7,448 incidents within the city proper. 2019, 7,706, and in 2020, 7,847. One of the things about 2020 is COVID was a huge component of that, and that actually reduced our number of daily calls for several months due to the inactivity of people and being restricted. Then as that time went on and we got into the later months into winter, especially about November, December, our call volume really started going up considerably. And during this whole time also, several residents, and this is hard to quantify with COVID, but several of the residents throughout the city were significantly impacted by COVID specific. Although, like I said, that is very hard for us to go back and correlate that data, because usually when we respond to the patient, it's not known that they're positive. So, but they're definitely very ill and having those problems. And where I'm going with that is the 4th of July is one of our busiest days as a whole. So The only days that compared to that in 2020 was basically Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and considerably the week of Christmas due to COVID-related calls. So if you remember, we had a huge spike nationwide, and specifically in California in COVID in the month of December, and that's the only part of the year that even remotely compared to the 4th of July for us for busy activities. So in 2020, we had 8 commercial fires, 535 false alarms, 18 hazmats, 5,798 medical calls, which is the bulk of our calls here in the city. 113 other type fires, 239 miscellaneous fires, 138 public service assists, which that could be just somebody fallen in a residence that needs assist up. That's a pretty high number of those type of calls. For residential fires, we had 29 of those, 10 rescues, 15 ringing alarms, 85 standbys, traffic collisions at 690, which is the second highest category in the city for responsive calls. Then vehicle fires at 50 and wildland fires at 119. And a lot of those wildfire incidents are related to transient activity. In particular, a key place is Navajo and 4th Street, A Street, that wildland interface there. We have a considerable amount of small fires there with, once again, the ability to have that regional protection and get in multiple resources in an immediate time frame. That's a lot of times just 4 to 6 units, but still that's comparable to the resources that the city has in their service. So this concludes the presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions or comments that you may have.
Council, any questions? Mayor Pro Tem?
More so just a comment. Just want to thank you guys for the excellent service you've provided for the city. I know my father passed away recently. My stepmother had to call the fire department one of the times he had to go to the hospital, and she called me. I lived around the corner. You guys came, and I just want to, the professionalism that the fire and paramedics gave to him was really important. And I know they had mentioned if City Manager Claire Miramontes, if we have any extra Paris gear, T-shirts, anything like that from previous events, some of them had mentioned they'd like some of that. So if we could go through our archives, see if we had anything, and give it to them. And also just want to bring up, I do understand the area in Navajo and 4th Street is a very area rife with fire. If we can contact our code enforcement to get on the ball with the property owners to start proactively clearing that area. So once again, thank you for the service you provide for the city. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Sorry for your loss.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, I'd just like to ask, with the upcoming 4th of July coming up, are we going to do any PSAs regarding the illegal fireworks that plague our city on July 4th?
Yes, the city manager and assistant city manager have both asked for those items, and working with it, our PIO and the city's PIO to get some of those PSAs out. We're also doing a campaign to just of advertisement of those fines and stuff, and then our fire prevention staff will have some heavier numbers on during that time, working with the sheriff's aid.
Thank you.
Councilman Corona?
You know, with the general comment, very similar to Mayor Pro Tem Rabb. You know, just last week, the fire department had to come to my house with the medical emergency with one of my in-laws. You know, but they were very professional. My son just barely woke up, and they were having a good time. And you know, I will point out also that they did come out before the EMS services. So it's very invaluable with the work that you guys do. I think the general public as a whole that they understand that your role is very important to the safety of the entire city of Paris. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Nava.
I just want to thank you for this great presentation, and I too want to thank you for you and all your team. You show up to situations where most people would run away from, so you are all true heroes, and we really appreciate what you do for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good presentation. Can you, for transparency, kind of, sort of, but to explain to the public the difference between an engine and a truck?
So an engine company is basically, it carries hose, water, and ladders, but a very minimal complement of ladders. That's the bulk of our fire department fleet is engine companies. The ladder company, in this case, has a specified amount of ladders, has the ladder mounted on top. Here in the city of Paris, we have a 75-foot aerial. It's called a quint because it also has a pump where a normal, what they consider to be a truck company, does not have a pump. So ours is dual purpose, and that's why we don't have an engine company staffed out of that fire station as well. Does that answer your question? Or
I thought that was all about the engine. What does the truck do?
So the truck has a lot of specialized equipment on it. Obviously, the ladder portion of it gives us good access to a lot of the commercial structures
So
here
the
in our
truck, the
tilt
truck
hubs.
has the big ladder?
Yes, the
not
truck has the big
engine.
ladder.
I thought the engine had the ladder.
No, the
All right,
engine has
so the truck is the ladder in the water.
yes,
What does the engine have?
ladder, water, and hose.
Hi, vey. All right, I
It has a
recommend everybody
small-
go take a tour of the fire department. All right. And that, so where would you find the firefighter paramedic, on an engine or a truck?
On both.
Okay, I'm batting 1,000 here. I'm
So
gonna leave it like that.
So that's why I was saying about dual purpose here in Paris, is that every engine company that's staffed in Paris has a paramedic on it. The engine company that's right here on F Street, it has 3-person staffing, so there's 3 people on that every day, one of which is a paramedic. The ladder or truck company has 4 people on it every day, one of which is a paramedic. So you have increased staffing because that's part of the minimum within our agency for a truck company, but it has a lot of the specialized equipment on it, such as we have Jaws Life, we have air monitoring equipment, there's confined space gear that we have at the station, swift water gear that's at the station. You may see us use that at the San Jacinto Wash.
So the truck that's coming later requests,
Is
that a replacement or is that in addition to our fleet?
That is to replace our current one.
Okay.
Our current one is a 03 model. When we first acquired that, that was part of a trade and upgrade from an engine company that we
Right.
had at the station at the time.
Now we're gonna get a new one,
And now we're looking to get a new one.
2021? 2020?
Hopefully it would be completed. It's usually about a year build out
Okay.
or a little bit more.
Great. And we only have one station that can handle that size of a truck.
Yes.
That's on F Street.
That one's actually on, by Paragon Park, the one with the ladder truck.
Placencia.
Yeah.
Okay, I really gotta take another tour. Councilman Colonel, you had another question?
Yes. You know, since the majority of your calls are going to be medical emergency, you know, why is it necessary to take a full size truck or engine out there?
So we have minimum staffing numbers or staffing levels that require on a piece of equipment. So we could staff an additional squad or patrol, but that would have to be in addition to the equipment that we currently have at additional cost to those things. And then they're limited to what calls they can respond to. So they may be a great asset for a medical emergency, but not so good for a full arrest medical emergency where you may be doing CPR. That's hard to accomplish with 2 people. Or when we go to fires or whatnot. Based on our activity level, those are things that, you know, as things like the higher levels of population and elderly are approved, and those call volumes continue to increase, those are things that we'll look at to complete our service and keep those numbers up to par with the busyness of our engine companies and our stations. Those are some of those things that will coincide with that. But that's why currently at the level that we're at now, while those would be very beneficial, it would come at a significant increase to cost to the city of Paris. I mean, roughly at the top of my head, a paramedic squad just in staffing yearly is an additional 1.2 million. So those numbers come into play, you know, effectively. And
Councilwoman Nava?
Thank you. One more question for me. The replacement model, the 03, what's happening with that one? What's the plans for that?
so that will continue to be kept here in Paris, and it'll be our reserve.
Got it. Okay. What about any old equipment? What is it your department normally do with that? Like any hoses that you don't need?
Trying to open up a fire department?
I'm sorry?
Are you trying to open up a fire department?
No, it was just for curiosity.
So because all those items are normally, other than like in this case where it's a specialized vehicle, most of those items are provided through the contract cost. And so they go back to the county and they're surplus when they reach the end of their life.
Okay.
And then the county sometimes auctions those off. They do sometimes donate those to different agencies, such as a few months ago, a couple fire engines were donated to the college for training for the fire academy.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that was my line of questioning, just to figure out where these items go. I've seen them in other countries as well, so I was just curious if we get involved in that sort of service. Yeah, in parts of Mexico, you'll see that they donate out there. So
Yes,
I was just curious.
several of the items do go there.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
So, Chief, do you off the top of your head know the average response time for fire services?
Can you repeat that?
Average response time?
So the average response times on that part, let me go back to it so I can.
Must have missed it.
I did not cover it.
Oh, okay.
It was on one of the slides.
Yeah, the print was pretty small, so we're gonna get the copy of that, and we can blow it up ourselves once we see it.
One of the things that, let's see.
It's coming in right behind you.
Yeah.
Good evening, city staff and Mr. Mayor.
So this is Battalion Chief Scott Weatherhole. He's one of the local battalion chiefs here in Paris and services the area. So one of the things when we're talking about these call statistics, so we do emergency medical dispatching, and what that entails is you'll see in the real fine print when you actually get to print this out and look at it, there's a part that talks about code 3 incidents and that are included in these counts. So the only incidents that we used in these numbers are code 3, which means lights and sirens, because we respond to a lot of incidents now since we started this new dispatching process a few years without lights and sirens, because they're not an emergent issue or life-threatening, so it's not worth the public's risks or the risk to the staff responding to go with lights and siren on those incidents. They can always be upgraded en route if something changes, but so those numbers are diminished. So you'll see when that count is looked at, those are the only things that we're talking about is the code 3 specific calls. And so 4,059 of those calls are less than 5 minutes. 1,903 calls are over 5 minutes, and 168 are over 10 minutes, and 18 over 20 minutes. So an average time of 4.6 minutes, or 4 minutes and 0.6, so that's right around 45 seconds.
Great.
4 minutes and 45 seconds right in
And
there.
the nearest, what is your most used hospital when you have to take someone to a hospital?
So I can't say that we have a most used. We're lucky enough that we sit in between several, Menifee, the Kaiser facility in Moreno Valley, the county hospital.
And all those transports are done by AMR?
Yes, sir.
So you wouldn't have too much stats with that?
No, yes, we don't track those. And one of the reasons is, so a lot of those transports are either dictated by the patient themselves in a request, or based on the severity of the call, they have to go to a certain facility.
Do you, does the fire follow EMR to the
Depends
hospital?
if we have to send a rider. If we send additional persons for staffing, yes, then we do the follow-up at the hospital. And
So it's not the norm then?
no, most of ours, it's
And does
pretty
the
much.
police follow routinely, chief, lieutenant? Does police follow AMR on a medical service to the hospital?
Not normally.
Okay, here's my point between the three of you, because it's gonna be my next comment. And that is, what is the average ballpark figure on a medical response from Paris to, say, Kaiser? 10 minutes, code 3. 10 minutes, 15 minutes? I know the time of day, everything, all these different factors. I'm just a
Probably
ballpark
10
average.
Probably 10 minutes, code 3.
Okay, so the next issue I'm bringing up that I get asked about numerous times from the community, and I'm assuming my colleagues as well, is speed bumps in our city. And speed bumps would hinder that response time. Is that not a fair assessment?
Yes. So
Also endanger the response of the fire and police as well.
I won't say that it endangers, but the fire department, we do not support speed bumps.
You do not support speed bumps.
One of the reasons for that is that diminished response and also the wear and tear that it causes to our equipment of going over those. So if you have high traffic areas, while they may diminish some of those particular items of people speeding, it diminishes our call response. And we're driving a commercial vehicle, and so those vehicles weren't designed to go over speed bumps nonstop on some of the particular areas that we go to.
Well, but I mean, aside from,
And
wear and tear on a vehicle, I'm more
Right,
worried
you're
about.
talking about the delay in the
Yeah.
response.
And every second, in a matter of life or death, every second counts.
No, it does.
And your response time would be hindered.
Right.
Hitting speed bump after speed bump, depending on which community you're going into.
We try and do it very safely and effectively, and the speed bumps do not fall into that being safely and effectively in our opinion.
Got it. Really good questions, answers, I mean. Anybody else have anything? I don't see anybody. Thank you, Chief, appreciate it. Real quick, police department, do you support speed bumps or not? No. No, the police department does not either. Thank you. Got you. Thank you, sir. Okay, that's just a presentation, so. 11B, oh, wait a minute. Do we have any public comments on this item, Madam Clerk, on the fire presentation?
No, sir.
IT department?
No, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, 11B is consideration to adopt resolution number next in order, approving the fiscal year 2021-22 and 22-23 budget, and again, limit for fiscal year 2021-22. And this will be introduced by Director of Finance, Mr. Ernie Reyna.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. So we have before you today is the continuation of the operating budget that we started back on April 22nd. We brought before you the first draft of the budget at that point. So included in your packet is actually a portion of what we'll be talking about today. And then online is actually the final budget. Once it's adopted, it'll go final, but the whole budget is included in there. So you may have noticed it's rather lengthy. It's about 670 pages, so it's good nighttime reading if you ever get tired and want to read something. So that's something for you to look at. So I want to start off by first letting you know where we stand as of today. When we talked about the budget last month, actually 2 months ago, about 6 weeks ago, we brought before you a balanced budget, and we were talking about where we're at. So not much has changed since that point, but I do want to highlight what has changed so you're aware of the differences that are in this budget versus the one that we saw on April 22nd. And so we'll start first with the general fund, go over what's changed there. We'll touch upon the other funds, which include the special revenue, enterprise, and trust funds. And then we'll have a brief discussion on the capital improvement projects. We'll highlight a few projects within Public Works, engineering, and community services. So we'll touch upon those as well. And then we'll go over any questions that you may have and go from there. So first and foremost, what did change since the last budget update? So I want to start with contracts within public safety because we did have some updates to those. When we first brought this budget before you, we didn't have the final numbers, and we do now. And so we want to first highlight the police contract, and we did have a bit of an increase there, but that was to be expected because those numbers weren't final yet through the county. So we got those numbers, and so in the police contract line item within the police department, we did see an increase of about $1 million in the first year, fiscal year 22, and about 1.1 in fiscal years 22, 23. And so that increased the general fund budget from that department itself. The next item was in the fire contract itself. So it actually went up just a little bit, about $262,000 for the first year and about $275,000 the second year. And the presentation we just heard before, we talked about the fire truck, and it is included in this particular budget. But I do want to note that most of the funds paying for this fire truck is not coming from the general fund. We were able to pay for most of that through fire diff, about $800,000 from there. And then we did have some other funds we were able to transfer and to actually pay for this fire truck. So that cost of the fire truck is actually covered by other funds. So that's $1.2 million, but I did want to call that out. It's included in the budget so you can see, but it's not being paid for by the general fund. And then next, we have within our place in the planning department is an increase of about $450,000, and that's has improvements done within the development services building itself. They're in desperate need of having some improvements done, and so that'll take care of the necessary improvements. And so that was placed in the general fund and budgeted in the planning department itself, right there.
Was that diff money as well?
No, that was not diff money. We're actually using general fund money for that one. So we did look at various sources of funding, and we just didn't have enough within diffs to put this one in there. So we went ahead and put that in the general fund to have that covered through here.
Thank you.
On the insurance side, we went back and reviewed all the insurance policies, ensure that we were covered properly. And so there's a particular general liability insurance that we wanted to make sure that we had enough. So we did increase in the first year general liability insurance by about $15,000. And in the second year by about $16,000. So I want to ensure that we had enough there. On the human resources side, we had some software acquisition, the licenses, the annual licenses that were not, didn't make it into the first round of budget. So we wanted to include that here, and that's $28,200. That's for the annual ongoing licenses. So that's for both the first year and second year of 22 and 23. And so what we have, and for the first year of year one of fiscal year 22, an increase in expenditures of $1.8 million. And in second year, fiscal year 23 of about slightly under 1.5. The budget itself for the general fund is balanced, and I'd like to commend the departments and everybody else helping to work with this. We were able to actually examine some revenues to figure out where we can actually offset that at. So the revenues are actually coming in a little bit stronger than we thought. So we looked at several places, and they were able to increase like sales tax, property tax, some of the cannabis revenue, different areas of revenue that actually helped us offset the cost of these rising for these departments. So we actually have a balanced budget for both years, a nominal increase overage on the first year of about $4,000 and a little bit higher on the second year. So both years are well balanced and everything's in place there. So I'll pause there to see if there's any questions on that particular section.
Anybody have any questions at this time?
So what I'm going to do now, if there's no questions, I'm going to transition over to just a review of what we did last time, because I think these charts and graphs are pretty powerful, and I want to review use those again so that you understand where these numbers are coming from, how we get our revenue sources, and all that. So I first want to concentrate on general fund and where the revenues come from. If you recall last time, we mentioned that 36% of our budget revenues come from sales tax generation. And as you can see up there, that's a good portion of our budget. That equates to about $20 million of our total budget coming in there at 36%. So second place is property tax, and that's the second source, the biggest source of revenue coming in. And that's about $8.6 million in revenue. And then you can see the other places in the pie chart where those are coming in from. We have stuff like the cannabis tax, the franchise tax, VLF, vehicle license fee, and then transfers in. So that makes up the total pie of the general fund revenues that we're seeing coming in. So just a powerful pie chart that we can look at.
Can you go back and expand what
Absolutely.
transfer in?
Transfers in, sure. Those are amounts coming in from other funds that help the general fund. So a lot of times they're coming in from special revenue funds. They're either federal grants, state grants. They could be any other things that are intended to help backfill the general fund, or just for the purpose of coming into the general fund and being budgeted there. But a lot of times they get they get sent into a different fund and then transferred over to general fund. So if that makes
It
sense.
does not
that's-
include our reserve.
No, none at all. No, these are just from other funds, so either special revenue or one of the other ones, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. And then focusing just on sales tax revenue, because it is our largest source. If you recall, I showed this slide last time, but I do want to show it again because I think it helps reiterate how we're getting this money to the city. And so for every dollar spent in the city, we get a certain portion of that. So 7 3/4 or 7.75% is the sales tax in the city of Paris, which has never gone up, and that's been the percentage. For every percentage there, we get 1% back. So for every $100 spent in the city, $1 comes to the city's general fund. So that's what this chart is telling you. You can see there the city of Paris gets that 1%. The other remaining percentages that you pay when you pay sales tax go to various other places. Most of it goes to the state. As you can see, the state general fund there, county realignment, some of it goes to Measure A, which actually a little bit does come back to us. So just different places that goes throughout the county, the state, but we get 1%. And so that adds up quite a bit to the tune of about $20 million. So keep shopping Paris. This next one here is just a year-over-year trend of where our revenues have gone. And I think it's good to look at this and see how we've grown or how we've regressed. And I think in this particular point, we go back to 2018 and we can look at where we were at 2018-19 and just slightly over 50 million. We grew quite a bit in 1920 up to about $57 million, regressed back down in 2021. And then as you can see, the projections for this budget I'm bringing forward to you is actually going up, which is a great sign. It's a good sign. And so we're anticipating that this will continue. So we're hopeful that this will be the track that we're going to go on. And we continually examine this on a monthly basis because we get new projections all the time. And the first projections we usually get are really low and they start increasing from there. So that's kind of what we're looking at now. And that's how we were able to actually increase revenues for this particular budget. So hopeful that will continue. And we do have some promising revenue sources in coming up. Amazon could be one of them that we might actually get, Forever 21. So there's a few positive things coming in the city that we're hopeful will be great for the city.
So go back, please.
Sure.
So 1819 to 1920, big jump.
Mm-hmm.
What happened there?
Good question. I'm going to have to look and see what exactly happened there. I don't have that information.
If I may, Mayor, part of that.
I know what happened there. I want our people to
Yes,
understand. But
yes.
go ahead, please.
Part of that big jump had to do with the Wayfair taxes we were previously receiving.
E-commerce sales tax.
E-commerce, thank
So
you.
our big warehouses
Yes.
that are
There you go.
e-commerce.
That was a very big.
That's what I want to express out there.
Very good.
What happened between 1920 and 2021?
I think some of the projections probably went backwards, and so we did have a slight increase of about 4 million, a little bit like that. So these were budgeted amounts. So I think that they were being extra cautious when these numbers were coming out. So it could have
Well,
been-
and also the COVID-19 pandemic. So what I'm getting at is if you could put in parentheses below the years, because this is going to be record
Yeah.
that people are going to pull up down the years.
Sure.
They're going to say, wow.
Right.
So I think it's very important to highlight e-commerce sales or however you want to list it. And then 2021 was the great COVID-19 pandemic. And that's history. It's what's happening here. So if we can document that, that
Oh,
would be
for sure.
awesome.
Yeah, I'll make sure that
It
gets on
wasn't
this.
challenging. I just
Oh, no,
wanted
no,
to
no,
make
no.
a point.
Yeah, appreciate that, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, you can go on to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. So we also showed this particular graph at the last meeting as well, but it's nice that you can kind of see where those general fund dollars are going. And, a good portion of our funds and monies are spent on public safety. And so it's about 48% or about $27.2 million of the general fund dollars are spent on public safety. And from there, you can see the various other departments that I've grouped together, such as development services at 7.3 million, or just slightly under 13%. Community services at 7.2 million, or just 12.73, and so on and so forth. So the pie chart is pretty powerful in the sense that it tells you exactly where every department is at and what they're spending. It's detailed in the budget, so as you look through the document, you can actually see these costs that are in there. But this is just a summary of where we're at with all the departments itself. So $56.7 million in total expenditures. So, and then looking at this in just dollar amounts going back to 1819 and then forward, where we stood with the expenditures, which correlates to where we were with the revenues and the increases and decreases. So back to 1819 at 41.5, up to 58.9, and then where we stand for this next 2 years, we're back down between 56.7 and $57.8 million on expenditures. And then projections, where do we think we're going to end up for this year? Again, we're looking at this and evaluating this all the time in terms of what we have for revenues and expenditures. So we started out when the original budget was adopted, thinking we'd be at about $264,000 in the black. At mid-year, we had some costs that came in, so we had some expenditures that we included in the budget that said we'd have a deficit of about 1.7. And as we get closer to the year the end completing, we're closing that gap, and so we're about 660,000 away from actually closing that. So I'm pretty confident that the next time I come back to you that this amount will be closed or really close to being balanced at all. So hopefully to bring back something in October-ish to the council so you can review that dollar amount and see where we stand. We also talked about reserves last time, and one of the things that we brought back was the total reserves amount, and so we talked about it just as a whole, and we said it was about almost $43 million, which is remarkable and a great feat for the city, and that represented 76% of the general fund revenues all in all. But one thing we didn't have is a breakdown of that number of how we came up with that and where they are designated. So there's 3 buckets, if you will, 3 categories for reserves. And the first one is the committed part, which is 18.2. And so those amounts that we've set aside for certain projects, certain earmarks, if you will. Then we assigned the 6.2, and that was something that was set aside early in the life of Paris, of where we said we wanted to have certain dollar amounts set aside for either be it public safety, for reserves, for whatever the case may be. But that's an amount that carries over from year to year, and that's 6.2 million. And that bottom number, unassigned reserves, 18.3, that's actually the amount that we can use for flexibility purposes for pretty much anything we need to if the general fund will ever need it. So that's the amount that we can just take and plug in and use from there. But fortunately, we have not had to use any of the reserves yet. And as it stands, it's almost at $43 million. So depending on how we end up this year, that number could grow. And again, hopefully in October, when the next round of budget for the year end wrap-up is complete, I can bring back another number that hopefully would increase that, but we'll see where we stand from there. But that's pretty great for the city.
That's
It's
outstanding.
amazing. It's outstanding. So yeah, just want to commend everybody for a great job there.
Particularly since we paid off the pension of $14 million.
14.7 million.
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's huge. And a lot of other cities, and to your point, Councilwoman Rogers, to your point, a lot of cities actually issue pension obligation bonds to pay that off. Unfortunately, we didn't have to do that. We just took it right out of our reserves and paid it off, and we're done with that. So that's great.
And we have not raised our sales tax like a lot of our
Absolutely.
neighboring sisters
It's
have.
still where it's at. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So as I mentioned before, a balanced budget, looking at the years just by revenues, expenditures, where we stand. So revenues coming in at 56.7 for this upcoming first year, 56.7 on the expenditures. So a modest in the black amount of about $3,500 of surplus, if you will. On year 2, $58 million in revenues, 57.8 on expenditures. So we're looking at about 150,000 in surplus. So again, constantly reevaluating, re-examining that to make sure those numbers are correct and accurate. And so as we get new numbers, we'll bring that back to the council and go from there. But as of right now, we have a balanced budget. And so that transition now from the general fund, I just want to talk quickly about the other funds. We're just going to go over the dollar amounts, and this will include our special revenue funds, our enterprise funds, and our agency funds, and then we'll touch upon the capital improvement projects as well. So on the special revenue side, just giving you the total revenues expenditures for the 2 years. So that first column represents what we stand on year 1. So the surplus we're actually looking at for that special revenue fund is about 15.1, which include revenues of about 60.2 million, expenditures of about 45 million. On year 2, we're looking at revenues of 42 million and expenditures of 38.2 million. So have a surplus of roughly $3.9 million. And that's the special revenue fund. On the enterprise funds, as you know, we're going to be doing an evaluation on the enterprise funds to see where we stand on the rates. But one of the things that we've had to do is subsidize the enterprise funds in the past, and we're going to have to continue doing that according to these projections that we have on there. But we're looking at revenues of 7.1 against expenses of about 8.3. So we actually have a deficit in that first year of about 1.1 million, and a deficit in the second year of about 1.3 million. So that's going to, we'll examine those, see where we stand. But we have a workshop coming up where we're going to take a look at those rates and see where we stand with that one. But it looks like we may have to subsidize yet again for the next coming years. And then on to our agency funds, and the agency funds are where we keep our community facility district funds and then the likes of those. Those are what they are, and we have revenues of, in the first year, of about 45.6 million, expenses of about 17.8, so we have a surplus of 27.7 there. Year 2, we have revenues of 45.9, expenses of about 17.6, and a surplus of about 28.2 on that one as well. And so that concludes the funds themselves, and so what I want to talk about now
Can I
is
just go back to the last couple of slides? Where does the water utility fall under?
here, the enterprise funds.
Can you go back to enterprise?
Yeah, it's right there.
And that's where our deficit's at?
Yeah, that's where it's at. So
That's
that's our
the major,
water,
that's one of the
sewer.
major component of that deficit is
Yep.
because of the water.
Yep, exactly. So you can
Thank
see
you.
that the revenues just don't quite
Just
cover the
wanted to-
expenses.
Just wanted to point that out.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
And if I may, Mayor, also sewer. 'Cause-
Water and sewer.
Yes.
Yes,
So
you're
it's two
absolutely right.
components, water and sewer.
I forgot about the sewer.
Exactly.
Okay, we can go on.
Okay. So one of the things that we didn't talk about last time is our capital improvement program. And CIP is something we usually do on an annual basis, usually done in February. So for this year, we married that to the operating budget, and so it's all inclusive, which is why your budget packets are going to be rather large, and the book you're going to receive late this week or early next week will be pretty big. So you'll have the capital improvement project included in there as well. And so that's something that we do adopt every year, and we'll continue to do that. So just for some knowledge background, the funding sources for capital improvement projects are various. There's a lot. And so we have developer impact fees in there. We have Measure A, federal and state grants, and gas tax, just to name a few. So that's where we draw upon for the projects that we're going to list and show you just now. And so we have two categories. We have budget changes for existing projects. So those are projects that are currently in the works that we've added to, and that equates to about $7.3 million. Then we have brand new projects listed in the book as well, and that's about $7.8 million. So the total for just the year 21-22, because we're just focusing on just the 1 year, is about 15.1 million. And so what I would like to do now is the three departments that have the CIP projects, I'm going to highlight 2 or 3 projects that they're working on so you can kind of get a feel of what it is they're doing. And so first I want to start with Public Works. And so these are some ongoing projects that they have. And so I believe last year we set up a annual building maintenance project that's labeled as F57. And what this does is that this is for ongoing maintenance of repairs, any of the city-owned buildings, that type of stuff, HVAC units, water heaters. So we put monies in there so that every year they can draw down from those to make those replacements. And so the construction cost for that is about $238,000. And so we've used construction fund diff for that. And this is something that's ongoing. And so you can see there that we've utilized a picture of an actual AC unit going in. So these are the kind of things that we're doing so that we keep the maintenance of the city going and operational, and that we just have the funds continuously to be able to do these type of things.
Mr. Reyna, can you explain diff funds?
Sure. The diff, yes. Diff funds are development impact fee funds.
Those
And
are fees that are given by developers.
Correct.
Who want to build in our city.
Correct. Yes.
And
so
it's not taxpayers' money when we
That's
do these
correct.
projects.
That's correct, yes. So as development's taking place, those monies are put into a separate bucket, and they're labeled as such, and they can only be used for certain projects. And so they're restricted in that sense that if it's a development impact fee for whatever the case may be, we mentioned fire fund, so they had one for there. They have one for various different types of funds, but they can only be used for certain types of things. So we're very restrictive, and we're constantly checking to make sure that these are the right type of projects they can be used for. And so that's the development impact fee. That's what it's used for, and that's how we get it. It's through development. So,
Thank you.
and then next we have the annual striping, street striping and signage. And so this is actually funded by gas tax, and I know that map's a little bit small there, but you can see there's a total construction cost of about $309,000. And so this is the type of thing that the citywide street signs for, be inventoried and replaced as needed, striping projects for the upcoming year, and safe routes to school and for freeway bridge checks. So another ongoing project that Public Works wanted to highlight to show the council what's going on and how we get the funding to do these type of things. So again, this is the annual street striping and signage fund itself. Next, I want to switch over to engineering and some of the projects they'd like to highlight and what they're working on here. So here we have CIP project number S23. Total construction cost is $5.8 million. And this is funded by, here's another acronym, RBBD, the Road, Bridge, and Benefit District. And so what this does, and actually this completion date is summer of 22. And so this is the road widening of about 2,600 feet from Paris Boulevard And those improvements would provide signals at intersections of Indian Avenue, 6 traffic lanes, and painted median and storm drain. So you can see 2 pictures there of what's going on in that particular project. So, and I should mention that if there's any questions pertaining to these projects, the directors that are overseeing these projects are here as well, so we can have them answer questions. So this is this particular project, Placentia Widening. Here's another acronym for you. I don't think I've said this one yet. CDBG, Citywide Sidewalk Improvements, and that's Community Development Block Grant. This is known as CIP S123, with a construction cost of $1 million. This is also funded by CDBG and the gas tax. Completion date of fall of 21. And this is installing sidewalks, curb ramps, driveway approaches, and other pedestrian improvements at various citywide locations. The picture here indicates this is the east side of Ruby Road going north.
I have a question. Our Public Works Director, oh, there you go. So, did you have the meeting already that, you can come on up, sir, please. Because I have a lot of residents asking me questions. And this is a perfect example, and that is there's a mailbox where the sidewalk would be. Are they permitted to keep those there so that they are, or city engineer?
It might be a code. I'm not sure if that would be in the city right of way or not. It depends on where the city right of way
Well,
is.
it's there now, and it's been there. I mean, they've been doing this for years. Now we're gonna put cement. Nobody knows that answer? Can't hear it. Would you step, Stuart, kind of come up?
Get us all up here.
That's okay, as long as I get my
Just,
answer.
could you?
The question is.
Yes.
As you see in the picture, is it on your display up there? See the post, the mailbox? Okay, that's the standard way that residents put their mailboxes up in front. They put a post in the ground and they have a mailbox on top. Are they permitted to keep that there when they pour the sidewalks? Because a lot of them want to put a new, good, nice post with their mailbox, and the sidewalk will be poured around it.
What I would recommend is that we move the mailbox because we want to have ADA compliant sidewalk, and we'd probably move it back onto their right of way. At my house, the mail's delivered on my porch, so it doesn't have to be right on the street.
They drive,
But-
put the mailbox. They drive,
lucky.
and put the mail in the box.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Okay,
They don't walk with the mail.
Mayor, if I may, typically, even community mailboxes are at the right-of-way, but there needs to be adequate sidewalk behind the mailbox. And that's one of the things that, we include or approve as part of the sidewalk,
all right, so here's a quick solution then, is are you going to be making contact with residents that have their mailboxes out there that are not ADA compliant?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Don't go away yet, Mr. Public Director. I got another question for you. You were gonna have a meeting, because we already awarded the contract. You're supposed to have a meeting that'll have a timeline as to when projects are gonna be starting. Has that happened yet?
For
The sidewalks?
the sidewalks, that's Stewart's.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're off the hook.
He's glad to pass that on. to
Good
us.
evening, Mayor. Stuart McKibben, contract city engineer. Yes, the contractor is going to get started on the 21st of June. Part of the specifications require him to notice everybody in the areas of what the work that's coming about. He also has to notice, keep their driveways always open, that kind of things. He has to do that as
Okay,
well.
You're gonna have a list, I'm assuming, for which project's being started when or not?
Yes, we do have that list. In fact, we just came up with it yesterday. I'm glad you asked.
Please have it tomorrow morning in an email, please, so I can let my
I
constituents know.
will have it to you. I will have it to you tomorrow morning.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, Ernie, but that's important. I've got people knocking on my door for this question.
That's perfect. That's why we have the directors here, so. Okay. This here is a map of the construction locations for the CDBG citywide sidewalk improvements. Stuart, I don't know if this one here, does it just show the sidewalk areas that are being improved right now? I'll let you.
There are various areas around the city that are having sidewalks along Ruby Drive, as an example, and another one is along over by not A Street, but the next street over, going west, I think, by Paris Elementary School. We're going to be redoing their driveways and things like
Right.
that as well. There's, it's various places, and those plans kind of highlight them.
Well, that list will explain it all, so,
Right, and again, that work will start on the 21st.
gotcha, thank you.
Okay. So now, switching over to community services, we have first Copper Creek Park improvements. So this one here, construction cost of about $734,000. This one's funded by Duke Realty. Completion date is July of this year. And this is the development of a multi-purpose sports court and restroom building. Next, we have Phase 2 of Morgan Park. The awarded construction contract amount of $3.3 million. Completion date, which would be this month. It's funded by a couple sources, general fund, industrial and residential park development impact fees. And this is the development of the artificial sports fields with stadium lighting, prefabricated restroom building, decomposed granite walking trails, walking lighting, and parking lot. And then finally, this is Enchanted Hills Park. And so, I think it does it have, oops. So this is a construction amount of $8.5 million, and this is funded by Prop 68 SPP grant, which I don't know what that means. Sabrina, SPP? Statewide Park Program, SPP. Anticipated construction start date is August of 21 of this year. And so, in terms of the budget itself, we're asking for two things today. So we have a resolution to approve both the operating and CIP budget, and the second one is actually to approve the GAN limit, which sets the limit amount dollars that we can spend per year. And so we're asking for those two to be approved today. And so, in looking through the staff report itself, you can see that citywide revenues for all funds combined, we're looking at about $158 million. And expenditures of about 156. So that's total encompassed of all the budget dollars there. And then we have the CIP projects as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, that concludes my report. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those for you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Council, anybody have any questions? I don't see anybody in the queue.
I'm not sure if you have a question.
Councilman Corona?
No, I'm talking about if somebody out there raising their hands.
Oh, I haven't opened up public comment yet. Okay, Ernie, very comprehensive report. Thank you very much. And I like the new layout of what you're doing.
Okay.
And I really like the numbers. And I
Looking
think our
good.
community members should be very impressed with our numbers as well. Okay, you're more than welcome to have a seat now.
Okay.
We'll call 5 of you back up in a minute. Public comment. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Very good. Is there anybody, member out in the audience that wanted to speak? Come on up, sir. Welcome, and if you don't mind giving us your name.
Yes, James Anderson. I actually, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I'm underdressed right now.
No, you're focusing over here, so you're fine.
But I do have an issue in regards of the Copper Creek, them doing the project. It's not about the whole entire project. It's just that area right there in the back area where the flood control area is at. My house is right there on that corner, and I've had numerous of issues with people coming through that bridge. And I'm thinking that that bridge is being accepted to keep being stayed there, and I feel it needs to go away. Not only for myself, but all the residents within that area of that bridge. Main reason why is you got motorcycles that come through there, you have the taggers that come through there, right there on that bridge, and I'm off right now on disability, but I think within the last 2 or 3 days, I've called the police numerous of times because I get into it with all the vagrants, all the people that sit there, they do their drugs, they do everything that they can right there in that area. And so I've just recently, you guys just fixed the fence, and I've chained off the fence on both sides of that fence on the bridge area. So it's an issue for that bridge to be there. They have many of other accesses to come to that park, and they also have accesses to be able to get around to all the other, I guess, plazas or the grocery store that is within the area. But that bridge right there is a big issue, and it needs to be taken away. I know you were putting a fence up there, but you was gonna keep that bridge and actually have it closed off at nighttime or open during the day. Now, for me, I've had people get on my fence and sit on my fence to climb that fence or put their bikes on the fence and all that kind of stuff. It's an issue. For me, it's an issue for, like I said, all the neighbors around there. And when they did come out to talk about the project, everybody from the other neighborhood that's on the other side of that bridge to also on my side, everybody said they wanted the bridge closed. It's an area that does not need that bridge right there. And it does not need that access in and out, especially if I even want to go even further. That's an issue for the police as well, because I've seen them come back there. They got people going inside the flood area. You know, they got numerous of ways of getting in and out of there. It just needs to be closed off. If you're going to do the whole entire project, I would say close that bridge off totally. So that was just the only thing I wanted to talk about is that bridge area.
Appreciate your comments, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
If you remain
Oh.
sitting.
Oh, for clarification, I just want to clarify. Okay, so for clarification, are you a resident on the Copper Creek side or on the Ruby side?
I'm on the Copper Creek. So my
Okay.
house is that last house on the corner within the cul-de-sac.
On
I'm the last house on the corner where that sidewalk goes through.
Okay, is that Havasu or Tahoe or?
That's Tahoe.
Tahoe, okay,
Yes.
so the last one on Tahoe, okay.
Yeah, I'm the last house on the corner. I got cameras. I mean, I'm looking at my cameras right now where people are just sitting there trying to get in that gate, just for whatever reason, trying to be in that flood area. So I know it's an issue. I don't have a problem with saying anything to anybody, but I don't want to go to jail because I'm gonna end up, putting hands on somebody.
I appreciate that.
But the thing is that that's an issue right there. And I've already talked about all the little taggers there. I've even sat on the fence. I was in the Marine Corps, so I just creeped up on them, sat on the fence, and watched them tag. And I just told them, I said, look, why are you tagging here? It's unnecessary. And this is 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. I even had a package taken off of my porch where somebody actually looked over the fence, got the package, threw the package over, and went straight through that bridge to get out of the area. Come home that evening when I come from work, and the guy is sitting in the corner. So, it's just an issue within that area to keep that bridge open or even keep the access for that bridge. That bridge just needs to go away and close off that entire area, continue with the whole process of the project to have the sidewalk or have the walkway go around and everything else in there. But that bridge is a big issue. So, that's
Did you
just my only
did you
concern.
have an opportunity to take the survey regarding that?
I have took the survey. I actually went out there. I talked to the project manager.
Got it.
I don't know who it is at Flood Control. Her name is Michelle. I'm pretty sure she's heard my name numerous of times calling regarding tagging or the fences being broken into.
Okay, sir.
I'm sorry. If you do decide to keep the bridge, can we get rid of the chain link fence and put up the
Yeah,
rod?
I'm gonna have one of our staff members talk to you when you get back to your seat,
Okay.
and then they'll give you an update what's going on.
No problem.
But I really do appreciate you taking your time off to be here and explain that to us.
No, not an
I can't tell you how valuable it is to have our residents come to our meetings and speak their mind.
Okay.
So I appreciate you taking that time, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else in the audience? Okay, we'll close public comment. That wasn't public comment. Well, it was. All right. At this time, I'm going to call for a motion on the two resolutions. Have a motion by Councilwoman Rogers, second by Councilwoman Nava. Can you please call roll call vote?
Mayor Pro Tem Rapp? Yes. Councilmember Rogers?
Yes.
Councilmember Nava?
Yes.
Councilmember Corona?
Yes.
Mayor Vargas?
Yes.
5-0, motion approved.
Thank you. Okay, 10C is conduct a workshop on the 2021 through 2029 housing element update, safety element update, and new environmental justice element. This will be introduced by Interim Development Services Director Candida Neal.
Good evening, Mayor Vargas and honorable council members. The presentation tonight will be made by our consultant, our housing consultant, Sarah Walker, will be making the presentation. But before she begins, Kenneth our planning manager would like to say a few words.
Sure, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. Just as a brief background, on September 29th, 2020, the City Council authorized a contract services agreement with National Core to prepare the sixth cycle housing element update, and also including the safety element and then the new environmental justice element. The team lead with the element update also assisted the city with the last housing element update, which brings a wealth of knowledge and continuity as we update these elements. Since the approval of the contract services agreement, National Core has conducted 2 workshops with the Planning Commission just to discuss why the updates are needed and the progress of the report. The purpose of this presentation is to give the council a meeting update on the housing element and the other 3 elements. And now I would like to introduce Sarah Walker, who will go into more detail what is involved in these 3 elements. And her team is available on Zoom to do the presentation. And that concludes my component of the presentation.
Thank you. Welcome, Ms. Walker.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Vargas and members of the City Council. I just want to make sure everyone can hear me okay.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I'm Sarah Walker. I'm a senior project manager with National Community Renaissance, and wanted to thank you very much for having me tonight, along with my colleagues, Erin Fannensteel and Monica Guerrera, to provide you with an update on where we're at with this focused general plan update. Next slide. So in October 2020, we began working with staff to update the housing element, which is required by state law. The update to the housing element triggers specific updates to the safety element, as well as the creation of a new environmental justice element for the general plan. So we're going to go ahead and start tonight with a quick overview of the safety element update, and then the environmental justice element, and then I'll spend a little bit more time on the housing element update at the end. So I'm going to turn it over to Erin at this time.
Thank you, Sarah. Good evening, Mayor Vargas, City Council members. Next slide. I'll just briefly go over the safety element update. So as a component of the housing element update, the legislature had adopted in the last couple of years Senate Bill 1035, which triggers the requirement that with the accompanying the housing element update, the cities need to also update their safety elements. And what this really encompasses is several other changes to the government code dealing with wildfire hazards, climate adaptation, and evacuation. And so all 3 of the changes to the government code that apply to the city of Paris really get folded into what we're doing for the city as part of this comprehensive update. Next slide, please. Oh, apparently I have graphics, but yes. So the housing element ultimately triggers that. Now, what a safety element encompasses is the government code section 65302G indicates that you need to address and protect the community from unreasonable risks associated with these variety of topics. What we've done, though, is we've highlighted those in bold that apply to the city of Paris. So the safety element currently addresses many of these issues. We're going to make sure that we refine those and also make sure that we're meeting the latest requirements, specifically associated with some of the changes that have occurred in the last 10 years or so. Next slide. And so to do so, one of the things we started with was really starting to look at the existing goals and policies within the element and identifying 3 new or revised goals that are going to speak to and address many of the new concerns that these requirements have created. And so as you can see, we have a goal S2. This is really to address emergencies, making sure the city can effectively respond to emergencies. This is dealing with evacuation and the concern associated with Senate Bill 99 requirements. Goal S5 is focused on wildfire and fire threats associated with a lot of the changes that were put in place under Senate Bill 1241. And then Goal S9 is a new goal to address the climate change and climate adaptation components that were adopted through Senate Bill 379. So this is really a very abridged version of all the changes that you can anticipate within the safety element. We'll be happy to ask or answer any questions that you may have after the end of our presentation. And then I think I'll pass it off to Monica now.
Monica, you're on mute. I know
Thank you.
I know it's an uncommon error.
Thank you. So the city's update to two general plan elements, in this case, the safety and the housing, directly triggers a state requirement to then create an environmental justice element. So through Senate Bill 1000, which passed in 2016, jurisdictions in California with designated disadvantaged communities are now required to incorporate environmental justice policies into their general plans. Environmental justice can be addressed as a standalone element, or it can be incorporated across the entire document. In the case of Paris, we prepared or we're developing a standalone element. So there's three important pieces of an environmental justice element. First, identifying the issues that impact the community, and the state directs us to five sort of key categories: pollution exposure, food access, public facilities, safe and sanitary homes, and physical activity. The second piece is engaging the community early on and throughout the process. And the third important piece is identifying policies and objectives that address and prioritize the needs of disadvantaged communities. This is a map of disadvantaged communities in the city of Paris using data from the state. The numbers refer to census tracts. Areas in red are census tracts that have been designated as disadvantaged. These are the communities that are most impacted by environmental justice and or poor health indicators. In Paris, what we see as some of the most prevalent pollution indicators include the presence of ozone, PM2, which refers to very small particles from vehicle tailpipes, tires, brakes, diesel particulate matter, drinking water contaminants, and hazardous waste and solid waste sites. These pollutants and their proximity to disadvantaged communities put residents at higher risk of negative health impacts. So that gives you a high-level overview of what we're looking at with the environmental justice element. And I'll pass it back to Sarah to go on with the housing element.
Thank you. So with first slide, please. So just kind of a quick refresher on the housing element. It's one of the 7 required general plan elements, and it is the only one that is required by state law to be updated every 8 years, and it must be certified by the State Department of Housing and Community Development. The city's current housing element was adopted by the City Council and certified in 2013. And this current update that we're preparing will be for the 6th planning period, which will cover the years 2021 to 2029. So what drives the housing element update process is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or the RHNA. For the 2021 to 2029 planning period, Paris was allocated 7,805 units, which are spread across 4 income categories ranging from very low income to above moderate income. So you can see that this included 2,030 units for very low income households, 1,127 units for low income, 1,274 for moderate income, and 3,374 units for above moderate income. Next slide, please. So in order to understand and kind of put these income categories into perspective, I just wanted to go ahead and share a quick table with you, which provides kind of a range in that middle category, or the third category, of kind of what those area median incomes equate to for the city of Paris and the county of Riverside. And you can kind of see, for example, for very low income households, they may be earning below $57,000 annually, and this could be people that work in preschools or as EMTs. Low-income households, for example, may be earning up to $83,000 and could be people that work as nurses or administrative assistants. So it's not always what people envision when they hear the words low income. Next slide. So state law requires that each jurisdiction identify an adequate number of sites that are zoned appropriately for residential uses at densities to meet their RHNA allocation. So while the city of Paris appears to have a significant amount of undeveloped land, as many of you on the council are probably aware, there are a significant number of constraints that do limit development of high density housing in the city. These constraints include the airport hazard zones around the Paris Valley Airport and the March Air Reserve Base, flood and fire areas, landslide zones, there are protected agricultural land, and as well as areas that fall within the Riverside County Multi-Species Habitat Conservation Area. So I have a map showing kind of where these areas are, and you can see the areas in white are areas that do not have any of the constraints that I just mentioned. Next slide. So in light of the constraints found within the city, we've been working very closely with city staff to identify a number of opportunity sites that could be included in an inventory to accommodate the city's fair share of housing. We focused on two key strategies to do this. The first was to identify vacant and underutilized land within the downtown specific area, much of which is already zoned appropriately to accommodate higher density residential uses, which for the state, they've set kind of a default density of 30 dwelling units per acre. And there are several zones within the specific plan that allow 30 dwelling units per acre or higher. Our second strategy was to look at vacant residentially zoned land outside of specific plan areas, as well as within the Green Valley specific plan area that could have a housing opportunity overlay applied that would allow up to 30 dwelling units per acre. So we felt like the downtown and the Green Valley specific plan areas were really important to look at as they're near future transit stations, as well as a number of services and amenities which are required in order to finance typically projects for a variety of income levels. Next slide. So I wanted to also share one new requirement for the 6th housing element update, which is largely tied back to environmental justice, which Monica just spoke about. And this is that the housing element is now required to look at how the city is affirmatively furthering fair housing. And so the state is now looking at the city to analyze within the housing element specific factors like concentrations of segregation, poverty, and discrimination of protected classes, and then apply this to programs, policies, as well as the sites inventory to ensure that future housing development in the city does not further entrench discriminatory patterns. So our team is working right now to analyze patterns in the city and will address this new requirement in the updated housing element. Next slide. So I just wanted to end quickly on why the housing element certification is so important. It does ensure timely access to state infrastructure bonds for capital improvement projects. It ensures that developers are eligible for state funding, such as cap and trade funding through the Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities program. It allows access to CDBG and home funds, as well as other housing and related transportation funds. It also allows the city to direct growth within the community, putting density in the appropriate areas. It also ensures the jobs housing balance, and ultimately, at the end of the day, it ensures that the city's general plan is deemed valid and that there are no potential lawsuits. So in terms of where we're at in the process, we're in the phase 2 of kind of our work program. We're working to complete the draft elements, and our plan is to submit them to the state for a review in the summer, probably in July. And while HCD reviews the document, the housing element, we will prepare the CEQA documentation. And we expect to be back before you before the end of the year for adoption of all 3 elements. And once the housing element is adopted, we will submit to HCD for final certification. And so myself and the team, thanks you for having us, and we will be here for any questions that you may have tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. I just want to wrap up the presentation real quickly. I just want to let the council know that we did also hold a bunch of workshop with the Chamber of Commerce, the Youth Advisory Committee, the school district. We advertised significantly on social media just to get feedback on the comment of where the city needs to grow and what improvements the city needs to make. In addition, the whole purpose of this presentation is to obtain feedback from the council for both the safety element, environmental justice element, and particularly the housing element in the area of where are we going to put 30 units per acre. And so what Sarah mentioned was we identify a few sites in the city, and we were just looking for sites that are vacant because we wanted to give an opportunity for those areas, because the housing density has increased from 1,300 8 years ago to 7,500. That's a significant number increase. And the only way we can meet the housing element obligation is if we have to increase or give the option for these vacant owners to develop at 30 units per acre. And that's an obligation that we would need to take care of after the housing element adoption. So that would be taken care of at a later point in time. But right now, we just identified some of those sites. We can bring up that exhibit. If you have any questions or concerns, let us know, because we will eventually reach out to these property owners saying that you have an opportunity to build at 30 units per acre, but you still have to meet some specific requirements. With that said, give us your feedback. We'll take it, we'll receive it, and we'll use that feedback to finalize the housing element and send that to HCD, which is the California Department of Community Development, hopefully within the next month. And then we'll be able to bring that back hopefully in October and get it adopted within the next 120, 180 days after that adoption period by the council. And I will leave it with that. If you have any questions, you can ask National Corps and myself.
So for starters, before I call on the council, we're given materials to look at and review and give comments, and we're looking at a map of the city of Paris on an 8.5 by 10 sheet of paper. So I would request that you submit to us a 2 by 3 foot map with the overlays that you're talking about, so we could really review it. If any of the council does not need one, they can raise their hand, but I think, you got to make decisions and looking at,
You couldn't read the street
you can't even read street names. So we're not going to be able, I'm going to allow everybody to talk right now, but to really give you a true, honest feedback, I got to review something that I can actually see and read, okay? With that, we're going to start with Councilman Rabb, or excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Rabb.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Just one quick comment. I'll be reviewing the overlay of the plan. I know I mentioned at a few meetings that we could look into facilitating, helping some of the residents in the downtown area and acquiring the necessary permits to build granny flats. I think that area is conducive to that type of housing. You have alleys, so it'd be easy access. And I know there's the area off of Mountain Avenue, Sunny Sands, and Sunny Slope. Those are large lots. Maybe looking at giving the ability for the owners in those lots to subdivide their lots. I think Jimmy Taylor Drive, I think that may be in the city as well. I think those areas are conducive for subdividing to allow a multi-unit. And I know the area up by, I believe it's Harry's Cafe, there's an area right there that would be also conducive to dividing the lots for multi-units. So that would just be my comments now. I'll be submitting comments in the future as well, but thank you for the presentation.
Councilman Corona?
I too want to say thank you for the project, for the presentation. I think it needs to be on a case by case basis. There's some areas that they may deem that are acceptable or should be a good location for increasing the density there. But here in the council or planning commission even may see some areas that might not be the best locations for the high density. But I'm not sure what kind of software we have that we can send to council so we can really zoom in and see about these features. But my concern is that we would allow a high density in areas that aren't really the best place for it. I bought my house, knowing full well that it's for single family homes, And then all of a sudden, if, there's a mini apartment complex, in my neighborhood, it could create some effects there. So, yeah.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes, I just want to address the RENA numbers that we were given for the city of Paris. As the representative of the city on WRCOG, we've had numerous discussions on the executive committee about those RENA numbers, and I don't believe there's any jurisdiction that feels we could ever match that or make those numbers in the next couple of years. So we did have some leeway and some negotiations to try to reduce the numbers that we were originally given, but we still feel as a group that the numbers are very unrealistic, and to try to make those numbers would be very difficult for any jurisdiction, including the city of Paris. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it for the comments. Sarah, thank you and your team for being here tonight and giving that presentation. And we look forward to further presentations and some better scale maps that we can look at. We appreciate it. Okay, moving on. Oh, public comment. Madam Clerk, do you have a request to speak on this item?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 12, which is public comment from the community on any item. Madam Clerk, do we have a request to speak?
No, sir.
IT?
No, sir.
Anybody out there at this time wishing to speak on any item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and move on to council communication. And Councilman Corona, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I want to start out by thanking Mr. Brown earlier for bringing up his concerns. It's a concern that myself and Councilwoman Rogers have been discussing with staff, with the whole park situation. I know, being a graduate of Paris High School, the kids would go out of school, they'd walk down Ruby and they'd cross through the canal, and the city would keep putting chain link fence, and then someone would go there and rip it down, and the city would keep doing it, and somebody would rip it down. So I'm not sure if we know the perfect solution, but it's going to be something that we're going to continuously talk to residents about, talk to our city engineers about finding what the best solution is. But thank you for your concerns. I want to start out by thanking the fire department for their presentation, and I know Councilwoman Rogers brought it up earlier, but if staff could work with fire about putting a PSA with regards to the fireworks, thank you for that. I did attend the Paris High School in-person graduation, which was very well attended, and it was great just seeing all the students being able to see their classmates for the first time in over a year. So it was a big celebration. Everything was socially distanced, but I don't think the parents and the students for sure didn't really mind that much. It was brought up though that there was a student by the name of Rudy Ariga who was involved in a car accident the weekend prior to the graduation. And since then, he did lose his life, and he was able to help save the lives of several other families through his organs. But Rudy was an honor roll student who was set to go to Cal State San Marcos in the fall, but unfortunately, things were kind of cut short for him. But our hearts go out to his family and friends, and I do want to request that we close today's meeting in honor of Rudy Ariga.
Absolutely.
And the very last thing, I just want to wish all the fathers out there a very happy Father's Day, to my dad and father-in-law, and to my brothers, and to the mayor, of course, and Mr. Dunn, and Mr. Ramirez, and Mr. Rainin, and Mr. Kibben, and Mr. Fung, and Lieutenant Portillo, and I'm sure other fire and sheriffs out there. Your role as a father is probably the second most important job with the child's life.
It's tough being Mr. Mom.
It is. So, for those wondering what to do for their fathers in your life, I I don't think fathers expect a lot. So just give them their favorite meal, and that's it. That's it with that. But those are my comments for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Nava.
Thank you, Mayor. I too also would like to begin by thanking our public speaker for tonight. I actually just received an email from a resident on Ruby Drive regarding that same concern. And I've been in communication with our engineering's office, and hopefully we can continue addressing this issue as well, because it seems to affect multiple neighborhoods, not just the one Mr. Brown mentioned. And then also I'd like to note that once again, congratulations to all our graduates that have made it for 2021. Our city had planned in the previous year to have a graduation parade, which was extremely successful. And because now it seems that our seniors, our high school seniors, are having in-person graduations, that there wasn't a need for that. But please do remind high school seniors that the City of Paris would still like to recognize them by offering gift bags, and they will be available at the Sattler Youth Center. And while you're there, also, with safety protocols in mind, I encourage you all to check out our Sattler Youth Center. There's so much for you to see and do there, so it would be a great opportunity for you to come and take a tour. And then also on another note, because of the pandemic easing up at this point, and it's looking like our numbers are better in regards to COVID cases, I just want to commend all our city staff once again for working during this period of transition. And I know that many of them will be returning back to in-person work, and I just like to reinstate my appreciation for their commitment in serving our community here in Paris. So also before this meeting, we had our planning commission appointments that happened and took place. So I would like to take a moment to congratulate our newly appointed commissioners, reappointed Jimenez, and newly appointed Lopez and Gomez commissioners. So congratulations to them. Like I mentioned, it's a great role to play here in the city of Paris, serving as a planning commissioner. And it's something that a resident really has to take on full-heartedly and with a lot of, reservations, representing the community and how it looks and playing a key role in how our development unfolds. So just a great congratulations to them for taking on that opportunity. And then I also would like to mention that because of the widening of the Nuevo Road, I have noticed that right before we get to those added lanes, that there's a lane to go straight and a lane to turn right when you're driving westward. So if I could have our city staff look at ways to potentially not only have it to be a right-way turn, but also continue it forward, because we do have those added lines. And if you need any help identifying which street I'm speaking of on Nuevo Road, please let me know. And then I also would like to take a moment to wish a happy Pride Month. This is a time to celebrate our LGBTQ plus community and commit to fighting for a more equal world where we can all live free of hate and discrimination. And because Father's Day is coming up, I would also like to wish our Father's Day all our fathers out there in the city of Paris a very happy and wonderful day, and that you feel honored and appreciated and surrounded by your loved ones. And as the temperature starts to heat up here in Paris, I'd just like to remind you all to stay cool, take care of our seniors and our pets, and just be safe as well for all of those who are celebrating graduation and whatnot. Just be safe out there while you're doing so. So that concludes my comments for tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes, I'd like to start by thanking our fire captain for that great presentation and giving us all of the information that we need. And I definitely remember when we first brought that engine, the ladder truck in 2003, and it's definitely time for a replacement. So I'm glad we're able to do that with the DIF funds. I also want to thank Mr. Rayner for an excellent budget presentation. It's good to see that we have a balanced budget, that our reserves are strong even after paying the lump sum for our pension prepayment of $14-some million. I also want to wish all the fathers a happy Father's Day. And as the representative to WRCOG, I just would like to announce that yesterday the executive committee in open session appointed Kurt Wilson as the new executive director to replace retiring Rick Bishop. Mr. Wilson comes from a substantial history of the city of Rialto, as well as the city manager of Stockton when Stockton was going through their bankruptcy proceedings, and is currently the interim city manager of Beaverton, Oregon. So he and his family will be moving back to Southern California to serve in that capacity. And particularly with the trials that Western Community Energy is going through, we feel that he was the right candidate with the bankruptcy experience to lead Western Riverside Council of Governments to the next era. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Vargas. I'd like to start off by wishing all the fathers a happy Father's Day, including my colleagues, Mayor Vargas and Councilman Corona. To all our staff members who are fathers, I want to wish you a happy Father's Day. To all the people celebrating their first Father's Day without their father, I send my prayers and my condolences to you. Just want to reiterate the thanks to the speaker for coming and voicing his concerns regarding the overpass at the park. And also like to thank everyone for coming out and giving their presentations. Mr. Reyna for an excellent budget review. The individuals from the fire department for giving an overview of the ways in which the fire department has increased or protected us over the last year. I'd like to congratulate all the planning commissioners, Ms. Jimenez for getting reappointed, and Ms. Gomez and Mr. Lopez for becoming planning commissioners. Want to thank all the applicants for submitting excellent applications and making the decision very, very hard. If we can observe, this upcoming Monday, June 14th, is Flag Day. So if you have your flag, you can put it out Flag Day in honor of Flag Day, and also 4th of July coming up. I just want to reiterate that fireworks are illegal in the city of Paris. So please, please, please do not celebrate with fireworks. There will be numerous celebrations throughout the Inland Empire. So if you can, please attend one of those. So once again, an excellent meeting, and also want to congratulate all the people who graduated from college, from high school, all the individuals who promoted from kindergarten, from 6th grade into middle school, and from 8th grade into high school. You guys really had a lot of obstacles in your way with COVID and all the other things that come along with being a child or a student in modern America. So once again, congratulations, and I wish you best in all your endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, just a few things. Went with staff to the May Ranch Elementary School. They had their Green Ribbon School Luncheon. They received an award from the U.S. Department of Education for being a green ribbon, or green school. One of 25 schools in the entire nation received this award, so that was very prestigious, very big, and I want to thank staff for attending as well. And this comes home to us because they have a green garden in their school as a result of our program here in our city. So that was a really exciting event. Memorial Day services, we had a great one again, sponsored by the American Legion and the VFW. I also attended the graduation for Paris High School, as well as Pathways Adult Life Skills, also known as PALS. Very nice to be able to see our kids be able to graduate in a regular fashion. Paris Valley Auto Center, if you haven't noticed, they launched their new kiosk sign. Also, the thermometer is working again. That's a landmark in the city of Paris, that huge thermometer, so that's pretty cool. Copper Creek Park. So I was approached by a few residents, and I was, along with staff, is how we initiated this survey, but it kind of took a wrong turn. This is not, in my opinion, a park issue. This is not for parks and recs. This is a public safety matter. There's a lot of gang activity. There was a murder there a while back. Transients passing through, drug activity. This is not a park issue. These folks came to us to close off this access, not from the park, but from what happens there at the dead end of Ruby Drive and the bridge. So how we switch paths is to me, is an accidental thing, in my personal opinion, but I really want us, staff, to really take a look at that. I think someone up here made a comment along with engineering and police and what have you, but they bring up a lot of critical issues, and this impacts the immediate neighborhood that's right at that cul-de-sac. not folks who live 5 miles away or 10-mile radius, whatever they use. This is a public safety issue, so we really need to look closely at this issue. Congratulations as well to our new planning commissioners. We'll hopefully be able to attend your swearing-in ceremony. Fireworks, we're getting a lot of phone calls already on the fireworks, and all I can ask is that folks please call the police department, report it. I know it may take a while. They may not show up for an hour or two, priority calls, but it is important to document it. And one of the other big issues you have to understand, the police have to basically see the person light the firework to be able to issue a citation. But if they keep on getting calls and they have data on specific areas, and hopefully it'll help them pinpoint where they're coming from. I've had folks ask me to just have them park there, for an hour. Well, the police can't afford it. If we could have them do that, I would do that. But that's not. We're not even near that at this time. With all the priority calls that go on throughout the city. So, but please continue to call 951-776-1099. Option 5 for our dispatch, and that's also for street racing. I can't iterate how important that is to report these street racing and folks that do donuts and what have you, and off-road vehicles. Okay, we've been here long enough. Thank you, everybody, it's been our first long meeting in a while, but we're still getting out in a reasonable time. Oh, I know, we're not done. I missed the Dodger game. Oh, no. That's it for council comments. Got a couple more things. Don't get too eager, guys. Okay. Item 14, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor.
And the birthday girl. Happy birthday.
Thank you, and
Madam.
happy birthday to Mayor Pro Tem Rab.
That's right.
And Councilwoman Nava as well. June birthdays. Happy birthday. I'd like to remind everyone that the testing and vaccination site is still open at the Bob Glass Gymnasium. Walk-ins and appointments are allowed. You can find more information and registration at the City of Paris website. Also, the IT department will be hosting a free summer e-waste drop-off on June 26th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. in front of the Development Services Building at 135 North D Street. Only things that are not allowed are batteries, light bulbs, and household appliances, but all other electronics are allowed. The Community Services Department will be hosting a drive-in movie at the Southern California Railway Museum featuring Raya, the Last Dragon, and this will take place on Friday, June 25th, and the movie does begin at 7 p.m. Registration is free, and everyone's encouraged to pre-register at the City of Paris Civic Reg website. Another event that will be coming out soon is the Youth Advisory Committee Open Mic Night, and that will take place on Friday, July 2nd at the Statler Youth Center. The event is scheduled from 7 to 9 p.m. And then also the city's community services is beginning to have youth sports clinic, and starting off with the basketball edition, which will begin on July 17th at Morgan Park. Registration is free, and again, please register at the City of Paris Civic Rec site. And lastly, I'd like to just also let everyone know that the Senior Center will be open for seniors 50 and older to come by for the cool-off services when temperatures reach anywhere from 95 degrees or above. The Cool Center is open, or will be open, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and again, when temperatures do reach 95 degrees or higher. Safety protocols and social distancing will be implemented. That is all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it takes us to item 15, our adjournment. This evening, we will be adjourning in memory of Rudy Arida, who unfortunately passed away a few weeks ago. Okay, so thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. Everybody on Zoom, telephones, a little bit longer, but we still get out really reasonable compared to other cities. So thank you very much for being patient, and have a good night, and happy Father's Day to everybody.